that we are on the same side as well as on the same page, right, about what to expect from this thing. And of course, if there are any investors over here in the session, then I can tell you for sure that we want you also on the same side and on the same page. Yeah. So let's get started really quickly. There are two big topics: systems innovation and value based. I'm sorry. Is there a recording coming back? I'm sorry. I heard an echo of what I had to say, but okay. Let me continue. So, as I said, two big topics to go, and we have to really get it done in 1 hour. So, I hope I have all of you going to support. Vashita, is there an echo happening?
And your voice is perfectly audible to us.
Okay.
Yeah, at our end, it's okay. Yeah.
Okay, because
Yes,
I'm
the voice is
hearing.
okay.
Okay, I'm hearing myself speak. It's recording back to me. Okay, fine. Let's just continue over here. Okay. So, firstly, my first question. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So, quick question first. On a scale of 1 to 10, okay, how many of you have heard of systems thinking or its many variants? Can you tell me? Yeah, okay, I found out the problem. I also opened the browser on this. Okay, so on a scale to 1 to 10, okay, there you go. You know, you never know what can come wrong in the systems, right? So on a scale of 1 to 10, how many of you have heard of systems thinking, systems, anything, systems dynamics? There are many variants of systems, okay, systems approach. So anything at all on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you think you can, and if you can put that in the chat, that will be brilliant. Can I just get some responses in the chat, or you can even tell me that I know. And the second question, while people are deciding how to write in the chat what they know, is that what is the expectation from you? Why have you signed up? What is it that you really want to know about systems innovation and value-based organization? Is there any burning question, or is there some quite very specific expectation or ask? Again, you can either put it in the chat, or you can also unmute and ask me the question. And yeah, I mean, if we can have some videos on, if that is allowed, then that will be even more brilliant. Is that okay, Pratishta? Any thoughts, any answers, any expectations? Wow, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. I think it makes so much of a difference, right, when you can see who you're speaking to. So yeah, any quick expectations? As I said, we just have 1 hour, and there's a lot that I would like to cover, or at least try to make sure we make use of every second possible. So any expectations, any thoughts, any prior experience would be really nice to just get a sense of it. And if not, then we'll continue, but that's fine. Maybe another 30 seconds. Else, if someone can give me a thumbs up saying, okay, we are all fine to continue, then I will do that also. That's also fine. Can I get some response? A thumbs up would be great.
Okay. So, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know much, so I'm here to either to learn, what this all about is and how it's going to
Awesome.
help me in my job.
Correct. Absolutely right. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that this is something that can be applied to our work and obviously helps us in, our business and whatever else that we're doing, and helps us to either grow, get more, get more business, increase our revenues, reduce our problems and headaches. So obviously that's what we want to get down to it. So as I said, I don't want to do theory, right? We're going to do something practical very quickly. If you have paper and pencil, then great. If you don't have, can someone tell me maybe what they can use instead? Systems thinking. Just now, Dr. Chintan spoke about something. Any other thought? You're right. Absolutely. Your palm and your finger. Okay. As I said again, keep videos on. We're really awesome, but no worry if there's a bandwidth issue. So I hope all of you have got either a paper and pencil, or you're ready to use your palm and your fingers. Okay. Are we ready? Yeah? Great. Now, what I want you to do is draw dots. Okay? Those dots can be big, they can be small, they can be in a cluster, they can be spread apart, whatever you choose to do on that piece of paper or blank place, right? Or on your palm. Okay? Have you done that? Yeah? Shubham? Ronald, have you all done that? I'm sorry, I'm calling out names because I need to get some responses.
Yeah,
Well.
done, ma'am.
Okay, awesome. So tell me how many dots did you kind of do approximately? You can say 10, 15, 20, whatever it is.
12.
Just give me an approximate number. Sorry?
12.
12. Wow, that's a very precise number. So did you do, anybody else wants to give me a number over here? Anybody else with a number?
And 13
Okay.
now.
So 13. Okay, nice. All right. So I can see we have some, specific numbers coming in. Now, are they in a cluster or are they separated out? And are they different shapes? Just tell me what you've done. I just want to get a sense of what you've done.
I formed a pyramid shape. 5, 4,
You
3.
made a pyramid.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. So you made a pyramid shape. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Anybody else?
I made an S shape connecting all the dots.
Already. Wow. Okay. Awesome. Nice. Anybody else done something with the dots already? Because that was going to be your next task. Okay, create a image or create a design using the dots that you created, right? So yeah, awesome, absolutely. So you've already done that. Great. And I think Kamlesh already said that he made a pyramid. Anybody else ready to share their image or picture?
I have created 17 dots, but it's a Christmas tree.
It's a Christmas tree. Nice, nice. Okay. So tell me something. Did you already think of the shape and then do the dots, or was it vice versa? I'm assuming you already thought of the shape, right?
Vice versa.
No,
Wow,
vice versa.
really? So
Yeah.
after you did the dots, you made a tree out of it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So was it a perfect fit? Was the number of dots a perfect fit and that's why you did it? Or was it that you just, realized that the dots look like a Christmas tree and so you did that? Or an S, Shubham, whichever one would like to answer that.
No, actually, the dot looked like Christmas tree. So
Nice, nice. Okay. What about you, Shubham?
I just didn't want to miss any dot. So I just
Wow.
connected all
Okay,
of them.
nice. Nice, nice, nice. Kamlesh, you had already thought of a pyramid when you did it?
Yes, yes. I thought about pyramid. I started from 5, 4, 3.
Exactly. And isn't this exactly how we do start our business or entrepreneurship or anything that we do, initiative or enterprise? On one hand, sometimes we just get started with whatever resources we have, right? You don't have paper, use your palm. You don't have enough of space, just put whatever you have. So those dots are really things that you're bringing together to create something, right? So sometimes we don't know what we're creating, but we just bring things together and then start creating. But the other is also opposite is also the true, that we have an idea in our mind, like how Kamlesh said, that he had the pyramid already in his mind, and then he drew the dots, right? He brought in the right kind of elements to make sure he could make that pyramid, correct? And then Shubham said something really interesting. He says, I didn't want to leave out any dots. So, which means that we have resources and we are already thinking as no, you know what, I need to put this to the best use possible, and so there, right? So we are inherently already doing an approach of systems thinking, okay? But we'll go deeper into this, and it will not stop here, and I'll tell you how exactly it correlates with the theory around systems thinking. But is this true? I don't know, Mansi and Manish, did you also get any of this kind of thoughts in your mind, or any other thoughts did you have in your mind? Okay, we shall wait for you to join us in some part of the session itself. But let me also continue. I mean, Camellia drew a Christmas tree, right? And that's again another learning. There are biases, there are prior experiences, there are many issues that go into what we see when we look at certain things, right? And that's again another part of systems thinking. How do you recognize these resources, and how do you really correlate with them and create relationships around them, right? So probably because Camellia has been around Christmas trees many times, since childhood, it was something that stared out at her and was immediately something she drew, right? Maybe somebody else would have seen as something very, very different, a different kind of tree perhaps. So this is again another part of systems thinking, and there's a beautiful model called the seeds framework that talks to us about the biases we have even when we are connecting. So systems thinking may be all about connecting, but there are biases in that. And if we don't realize the bias, we don't know how to leverage these assets to the maximum, right? But we will talk about that maybe in a little bit. Or as I said, that's theory and can be very easily kind of brought into, right? So we are going to talk about systems innovation. This is just the starting point, right? You've put things together, you want to start building something, you have a vision in your mind, but then there are always constraints, there are always problems that we have. So how do we really start using systems to innovate and obviously help our business, help our enterprise, help our initiatives? I'll take the word innovation first. Yeah. So, when I was at Oxford, a very renowned professor, told us that innovation really is about meeting, okay, two competing constraints. I hope everybody got this, okay? Meeting two competing constraints. One of the simplest examples I'll give you is, of course, for us when you do product pricing, right? We want to make it cheap, but we also want to make it fast, right? So is that possible? They are very competing, because if you want to make it fast and high quality, it's probably going to cost more. That's the assumption. But on the other hand, if you're saying no, it has to be fast, but it has to also be economical, then that's a competing constraint to meet. And that's how you start becoming innovative, when you understand. So this I agreed, and I thought that was really a great way to understand innovation in its very basic form. But then he also spoke about products being innovative. And then I disagreed. Okay. And that's why I'm not sharing his name. Okay. Because I disagreed. And the reason why I disagreed is because I think products can be distinct, products can be unique for sure. But the innovation is not really the product per se. It is the process of developing, designing, manufacturing that product that created something so unique and different. The innovation lies in the way we think. And that's what gives as an output, as a result, okay, as an outcome, and unique and differentiated product. So if we really want to understand why that product is distinct and unique, then we really need to understand the process by which that product has come into being. And that process is a result of the thinking of the people involved in that process. And so how we think is crucial for us to leverage innovation in our work, right? And therefore today I will also be focusing a little bit more on System, yes, but system thinking, the thinking that you need to leverage a systems approach to build innovations for your business, for your enterprise and your initiatives. Yeah. Does it make sense? Anybody has some comment or thought on this or a question maybe? I'm happy to kind of take that. I do hope that you will not blame me later that I spoke more than giving you all the chance to talk. But let's continue. Okay. Was there a question?
Ma'am, what do you think innovation by design? What do you
Yes,
think about innovation by design?
absolutely.
Innovation.
Absolutely. So innovation by design, yes, design thinking again is a form of helping you be innovative, right? But that's what is the common term? Thinking. How do we think leads us to that innovative or distinctive or unique product, correct? So the thinking, the process, the systematic thinking, or sometimes maybe the strategic way of thinking is really what I would like us to, kind of focus on and kind of think about that. There are many ways of thinking. There's critical thinking, design thinking, human-centered design thinking, right? So there are multiple ways that we can definitely think of it. But what I want to focus on right now, and that's why systems thinking is really the mother of all of these, right? That kind of brings most of these elements into play. And therefore, we want to focus on the thinking. Can we start thinking in a particular way? Can we think different? Because when we start thinking different, automatically we will move towards something that has got a USP, got a differentiator, and helps us obviously to stand out. Yeah, make sense?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
great. Now, so the second part to the thinking, of course, is also about the systems. And, when we talk of systems, typically a systems is defined as something that has got a particular boundary, right? So there is something that keeps everything together. And now within that system, within that ecosystem, we have to understand how things are connected, okay? And in systems thinking, there are two very, very basic and the core, okay, of the models that are there. One is called the causal loop, okay, and the second is called the iceberg model, okay. Now the causal loop is really very simple in the sense of that it talks about the interconnectedness of different factors, variables, and issues in our ecosystem. How many of you have played the game Name, Place, Animal, Things when they were kids? How many of you? Well, I have, and I still love doing that. And I think that is a very easy and simple way to understand that an ecosystem contains all of this. Yes, thank you, Shivam. Yeah. It has got people, name, yeah. It has got locations, places. It has got animals. It has got nature, which is nature. And then things, because assets, right? All our ecosystems are, whether it's your business, whether it is an organization, whether it is a city, whether it is a geographic location, all of them have all these things, right? So how do you deal with each of them? What is your relationship with them? How does it impact and affect them is really what the causal loop is about. Identifying all of them, understanding that relationship, understanding the impact on each other. But also one more important thing is understanding feedback mechanisms, or at least putting in feedback mechanisms so that you not only just manage it, but you also understand the result of managing it. Okay. As I said, I'm not going to get into the theory of these topics because that's something you can very easily get online, but do that. So that's one model. So that what it teaches you, the causal loop really teaches you is to think wider, think, bigger, right? And just now, as we did about the dots, you were restricted by the space of the page or by your palm. Did anybody think that maybe I can use my other palm also, or I can take another sheet of paper? There were no rules, but you just assume the rules, right? And that's what happens in our business. We just assume the rules, or we just put restrictions on ourselves without realizing that it is self-defeating. Because if you thought bigger, if you thought wider, you would suddenly start seeing there are so many more resources available to you in the name, place, animal, thing kind of context, okay, for you to leverage and design something better and bigger, right? And innovation starts happening when you start leveraging this, when you start pushing the boundaries. And that's again the innovation, right? Contradiction. On one hand, I'm saying systems are about boundaries. On the other hand, I'm telling you to push the boundaries. So obviously that contradiction is very important. Understanding how to operate within a certain boundary, but also how to push those boundaries and obviously get much more from those boundaries, right? So this is the first model, as I said. The second model, okay, is about thinking deeper, which is the iceberg model. Okay, the iceberg model, really, I mean, what does an iceberg do? Anybody can tell me about an iceberg very quickly? Any single factor of the iceberg that we always talk about?
It's got both the height and depth.
Yes, it's depth. Yeah, can you expand a bit more on that? Anybody?
It's rough geometry relatively. It's not all smooth. So there are ups and downs and everything is like that.
Okay, that's a nice, very, very
Well,
different
it is
view.
more, the iceberg is deep inside the water and has very less
On the
outside the
top.
water. So,
Perfect, perfect, exactly, right? So what you see outside the water is a very small part, right? The major chunk, sometimes they say as much as 75 to 90% of an iceberg could be below the water, which you cannot see. And that's what systems thinking tells you, that you cannot just look at what is so obvious and what is so visible. You have to think deeper. You have to go deeper. If something happens, an event happens, or you look at something, that's just what's on the surface. What's below? And there are three parts to that. Okay. And again, I'm not getting into the theory too deeply, but what it says is there a pattern or trend to this, incident happening or event happening? Then that will help you to prepare and plan better for it next time. Let's take a disaster, for example, right? If there is strong monsoons that happen, monsoon winds that lead to certain amount of flooding, then you already know, okay, this year is going to happen. I need to prepare in advance, before the monsoon sets in. So that's preparing. And it is good because you've gone one layer lower. But the better layer than that is to look at the structures that either allow this to happen or can prevent it from happening. And that's going deeper, right? The next level, which is to say, okay, in that case, I need to not just, prepare and clean my, the different things that will help the water to go into the ground, but maybe I need to put up, channels that will take the water away from the thing, or put barricades that will allow the water, I mean, prevent the water from coming into our house or into our office or whatever. Right? So those are structures. We start looking at what are the enabling structures or something that can prevent it from happening. But even more deeper than that is the mental models, right? And that is the most difficult because that's where transformation happens. When we look at only patterns and trends, it's incremental change. When we start looking at structures, we can really look at some kind of change management, structural change happening. But when we look at the mental models, that what leads to this, why is there flooding in my area? Is it because there's a lot of waste and trash that is put into the gutters and therefore there's no water to go out? Are there behaviors that is leading to this, or is it that there is no money to put those structures in place because it is not available? What is it that is preventing us from creating the right kind of structural changes so that we can adapt better to the problems that are happening around us, right? That requires us to understand people's values, beliefs, ethics, and that will change, that will set the stage for putting in place the right kind of changes that will lead to not just incremental but transformation, right? So understanding the mental model. So this is what the iceberg model is about, and I've of course spoken about it very, very simplistically as well as in a very, very short manner, but there could be no. I'm happy to I'll just pause for a minute over here, and if there are any questions to ask either on the causal loop or the iceberg theory, I'm happy to quickly take that. Otherwise, we will move on. Any quick thoughts? Or a thumbs up would be great. Just to know we are all good on the same page. Nice. Nice. Thank you very much. Okay.
I'm thinking about that. Problem identification is a key for the innovation, I think. Because when we understand the problem of system, then we think about the solution on the different ways. So I think problem identification is the key for innovation, system
So,
innovation.
yes, I think when innovation is concerned, you can't really set out by saying, I'm going to make an innovative product, which is why I told you I disagreed with my professor, right? That you can't really say, you know what, I'm going to create the world's most innovative product. I think that's putting undue pressure. Yes, you can start with a differentiator, okay? And that will start innovation. And that's why I believe in process innovation and not product, because process innovation is a iterative process. It will take you, it will take time. It's not something that can happen overnight and say, okay, yes, everybody says about the eureka moment, right? But that doesn't happen just suddenly. It is actually a result of so much of thinking that you finally get deeper insights suddenly. And that's your epiphany, or that's your eureka moment. But the truth is that it is not just an instantaneous thing. It has come from, a lot of connecting the dots. It has come from a lot of dismantling those structures you've created and putting them back again. So you can't really identify and say, this is what's going to make it innovative. It's an iterative process, and you have to be ready to do that. You have to be constantly ready to keep thinking differently to be able to reach the innovation goals that you may have set for yourself. And as I said, it is the process that is innovative. In fact, I had written an article on this one time long back, and I the way I described it is like an orchestra, right? The orchestra sometimes ends with this huge clash of the cymbals, which like kind of makes it wow. It's that moment where everybody is like on this total high. But to do that, you have to have the whole orchestra. You cannot just bang our cymbals together and make that noise and people will say, wow. No, they will not. They will do it as part of the complete orchestra, which is a part of many other people being involved and many other aspects of the music coming in, which then leads you to feel like, wow, this is the fantastic finale, right? Just hitting two cymbals together, it will make the same sound, but it'll have no meaning. It has meaning in context, and that's why systems thinking. And that is why we talk about think big, think different, and act together. That's what we talk about when we talk about systems thinking. Does that make sense to you? The identification is also a process. It's not something that you can say, oh, I identified the right thing just now. It is going to be a process. It's going to be iterative. Yeah?
Yeah,
Make sense?
sure. Yeah,
Okay.
makes sense. Thanks.
Awesome. One of the other things about systems is that there are so many types of systems. And as I said, the boundaries, right? But it's not true, because even if you take an iceberg, it's in an ocean where there are multiple other icebergs. And because there are other icebergs, its shape and size will keep changing. So therefore, there is no such system that is in isolation. Even our universe, our planet is part of the larger universe. So every system has got subsystems, like your hand is a subsystem of your body, but then your body is a part of the bigger system of humanity. So you always have, so there's a concept that I call a subsystem, systems, and super systems. So you have to, again, when you are going to start applying systems thinking for your business, you need to understand all these different elements, that you will have multiple subsystems, you will have multiple systems working, and you probably have a super system, which is again part of another system, right? So it is an ongoing thing. When you understand this, you are able to manage it better. So you may have boundaries, but those boundaries are only to make it more manageable. There is no real hard bound boundaries. You can always push the boundaries, and that's the way to go towards innovation. So again, when you talk about systems, I think, again, another thing that we how many of you have heard the word VUCA? VUCA word? Yeah? No? Okay, I'm going to give that as homework. I'm not going to give you all the theory right here. But anyway, let's make it simpler. Ultimately, when we look at the world around us, it is complex. Then we use different words: complex, complicated, chaotic, right? Or even simple. And that is another thing that is good to understand. What kind of a system are you working in? If it's really, really simple, it's easy for us to put into place, SOPs, and it's very simple, right? The minute it starts getting a little complicated, yeah, we need to think more deeper. We need to really get things in place, etc. When it becomes chaotic, just making sense of it alone is a big deal, right? So therefore, one of the things that I would recommend you do, again, as another homework, this is a fantastic framework called the Sinifin framework by Dave Snowden. Okay. In fact, we had brought Dave to India 13 years ago. Okay. And we had set up, sessions with him over here. 13 years ago, systems thinking was a very, very different situation. People really did not know or appreciate it. And so obviously, we didn't have as much takers for what we hoped to be a game-changing way of doing operations. But anyway, he is amazing, and I would definitely suggest you look him up and check what he has to say, which is very different from, again, as I said, the standard models. Yeah. So again, to go back to systems innovation, and we are going to soon run out of time, so I want to move to the value-based education as well. One more framework which I think you all should understand, which I spoke about a little bit earlier, is about the biases that we have. Even after understanding systems thinking, even after understanding and talking about innovation, okay, we can still go wrong. You heard that. We can still go wrong. Why? Because we have inherent biases in the way we even connect the dots. And that simple exercise told you that, right? If you look at the SEEDS framework, this really talks about 5 things. First, our first and very big thing that we tend to do is we tend to connect things which are similar to us. We automatically create in groups and out groups. Okay, so something that's similar, we'll immediately categorize because it's so easy, right? And because of that, we tend to leave out things that are not same, and we lose out because of that, right? So that's our first thing. The second is experience. We all have had our own experiences in life, and therefore that experience will tell you do this way because you've always done it that way. So therefore, that is exactly what you're going to do. How will you discover new ways of doing things if you believe that the way I did before, it worked, so let me continue doing it that way? You're going to have to force yourself to think differently and do things differently, right? That experience, sometimes you have to just tell my experience, no, I am going to try a new way. Even though I know this works, I am going to try and find out if there are other ways that work. Then becomes expediency. Expediency means doing something that is easy, quick. Obviously, if something is right there in front of you, you're more likely to pick that up and work with it rather than look for other tools that you don't know about. Today, you're learning many new tools. Are you really going to spend the time going to find out about those tools? Or will you say, no, oh, that sounded very good, that was nice to hear and everything, but I don't have the time to go looking for those. That's the problem, right? We don't look. Technology. We use the most easiest and simplest of technologies. Why? Because you're most comfortable with it. It's easy to use. And if we have to go and look for other things, it's going to take us so much more time to be able to do that. Correct? So that's the other problem. The next is distance. Why are offices telling people to come back to work? Because distance adds a layer, both as an obstacle as well as from a point of view of transparency. So how do you then overcome the bias of distance? You will always work with people who are closer to you, nearer to you. You'll always work with tools and issues that are nearer to you. So how do you overcome that bias to go beyond and discover new things, right? And last but not the least is, and perhaps the most important, is safety bias. We humans, since the days when we were living out of caves, have always been driven by survival instinct. We will not want to take risk. Our risk taking abilities are very small, and we would prefer to take the safe option, even if we know it may not be the best option, even if we know that perhaps there could be something better, but we don't want to take the risk. And so that's why it stops us from really leveraging systems thinking or any kind of thinking to really go out there and do something new, right? So this seeds framework is yet another framework which I think will be good for you to know about. And we just have 15 minutes more, so I'm again going to pause very quickly before we start talking about value-based organizations. If there are any questions on the whole systems thinking, systems innovation components. Yeah. Any quick questions or anything in the chat also is good to know. Otherwise, as I said, a thumbs up would be great. Awesome. Thank you so much, Shiva. Thank you. All right. Okay, so let's continue. As in my introduction also was said, and I know the SDGs is something that is definitely part of the AIM approach, and many of you are social entrepreneurs, many of you are circular economy practitioners, many of you are doing sustainability. And of course, we all know about now ESG becoming this big thing, which is of course controversial. There's a lot of backlash to it. But ultimately, which is why, I feel the SDGs, okay, are the most easiest to use or the most simplest for us to understand all the complicated problems of the world. And more important, it's not about 17 goals, but it's about 169 targets that are interlinked. And that's where the both complications and the opportunity for leverage happens, for innovation happens. If you can start looking at your work not from a single lens of saying, oh, I work in water, or I work in waste, or I work in health, I work in nutrition. If you can start thinking broader, okay, if you can start looking at all the other SDGs and saying, do I also kind of impact this? Because what I think of it as not 17 colors, different colors, but 17 woolen balls of colors that are tightly intertwined. You will suddenly start seeing some new ways. And believe me, this is an exercise we have done with entrepreneurs, and they have been just flabbergasted at the new ideas that came to them just by looking at other SDGs that they never ever thought they were, that was applicable to them. So I would strongly this thing. And so this is what I want to also talk about. What are the values that you have that make you do what you do? Because ultimately, it is the values we have that drive us to action. Value creation. So value has so much. It's a noun, it's an adjective, it's a verb, right? It's really funny, correct? We use value so much interchangeably because whatever we value, okay, that's what we're going to put in all our efforts at, right? Or whatever it is that we're looking to build for ourselves, that's what we're going to put our efforts into. And our value systems. Remember the mental models of the iceberg model? Our mental models, our value system, our ethics, our belief is what drives us to do what we do and make us unique from somebody else. So they have a different value system, you have a different value system. And that's in a way great because that's what diversity is all about. But it's also a problem because how do you bring everybody on the same page if we have different value systems? Someone will say, I believe in working hard. Someone will say, I believe in working smart. Someone will say, I believe in honesty. And someone will say, I believe in being practical. I'm not sure whether they are two opposites, but that's what people give as an excuse, right? This is the reality of the world, right? So how do you bring them to a common value system? What is the values that drive your business? We talk about one value system which we believe is common or is a common denominator for everybody or can be a common denominator. And that's the RISE values. Responsible, inclusive, sustainable, and ecosystem friendly. I'm again going to repeat this, okay? Because I want you to come back and tell me if these make sense to you or you think there's something missing from these value systems, okay? Responsible, inclusive, sustainable, and ecosystem friendly. Of course, this is a huge model by itself, framework. There are principles behind this. So there's been a lot that is there for you to really understand. But even as a first step, do these values resonate with you? Do you feel that all four, and of course I know all four can never be equal, they will all be in different degrees. Somebody is more sustainability oriented, somebody is more inclusion oriented, somebody is more about partnerships and working collaboratively, so ecosystem friendly, whereas others may feel that no, I prefer to work on my own, I think better on my own. So there can be differences in the way we approach these value system, but some degree it exists in all of us, because none of us can ever say that I'm okay to be irresponsible. I doubt it, right? None of us can say that I prefer to be completely alone and never get connected or bother about anybody else in life. There's always going to be somebody else you have to think about, right? None of us can say that, you know what, I don't care what happens tomorrow, I'm just for today. Sustainability, right? It is. And finally, ecosystem friendly. As I said, none of us live in isolation. So understanding the ecosystem around us and maintaining our relationships with them, no matter what we believe otherwise, is really, really important, right? So these are the four values. If there is anything that someone would like to ask or tell, whether they agree or disagree, I'm happy to hear that, of course. Yeah. Any thoughts on the value systems? A thumbs up? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. So I think, at the end of the day, creating a value-based organization will determine your legacy. And I use the word legacy very, very carefully. Why? If you're thinking of building a business just for, the next 1, 2, 3 years and then exit, okay, you will think in a very different way. You will build your business in a very different way. You will create policies for your organization in a very different way. You will have your relationships, whether internal or external, in a very different way. But if you're looking at doing something that is long term, legacy based, okay, leaving back a legacy, creating creating a mark for yourself, again, you will behave in a very, very different way. So identifying, don't talk about culture as yet, because culture is very far. Start with the value system. What is it that you value? What is it that you believe in? What are the value systems that drive the way you operate? When you can start identifying those, you will start creating the right kind of, as I say, policies. You will create the right kind of practices. You will create the right kind of processes. And most importantly, you will build the right kind of communities and partnerships around you to collaborate. Yeah. So I'm going to pause here for question and answers, more in overall, based on any thoughts that you might have. And yeah, and again, if you can turn on some of your videos, I think that'll be really brilliant. Yeah. Incidentally, yeah, I should show you all this as well. So this is the KORU toolkit that was mentioned earlier, okay, which has all kinds of tools and models and frameworks that we use for businesses to use it, for entrepreneurs to use it, for government to use, to civil society to use. So depending on who you are and what is your objective in life, these tools will help you to simplify, because it's easy to talk in general terms. You can write long pages about different aspects of running a business, but if you want to replicate something, if you want to retain something, then having a model or a framework which can be a reference point and standardizes the way you talk, the same language, the same way of references, I think that makes it very much more easier. And that is why we came up with the KORU Toolkit, which is really a culmination of 14 years of work in Idobro, and of course my experience prior to that. But that's how we started. And incidentally, Idobro itself is a model. It's called I5. I won't again get into the details of that, but we did not start doing systems thinking now as a fad, but it was actually part of our name. And that's why our tagline is multiply your impact. So when you do systems thinking, when you start looking at innovation from pushing your boundaries of your ecosystem, that's how you will multiply your impact. And so that's what we really want to do today. Encourage each one of you to think big, think different, together. Yeah. So with that, I will stop. We just have another 5 minutes or more to go and take any last questions that you might have.
Afternoon, ma'am. Myself, Dr. Ranjan from ACIC RISE.
Yes.
So, as you were talking about the diversity and its effect on the value system, right? So, can we build our ecosystem in such a way where these diversities can help us building a system? Yes.
Absolutely, you must, because you're overcoming a bias, right? Your bias is to go with people who are similar. The minute you start looking at diversity, you look at inclusion, you have already started that step towards innovation, because you're overcoming the similarity bias to bring in people who are unlike you, bring in people who you don't think about, people who may be also marginalized. So, yes, thank you. That is absolutely the right step in the right direction. Great.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other comments or thoughts or suggestions in what you might have wanted to be included in this topic, which maybe I have not covered? So that also is most welcome. Systems thinking is always about continuous improvement. So most welcome to share that as well. Or if anyone can tell me one single takeaway that, this is something I'm going to implement in our work or in our enterprise or our business, I'd really be really happy to hear that this is something that really struck me and I'm going to go back with this. So any such points? You can put it in the chat as well. Yes, thank you. Yeah, you can put it in the chat as well. If there is any takeaway from here that you think you will be able to use.
I think we have Vinay raised his hand.
I'm sorry, I could not see it. Okay.
No
Yes,
problem.
hi. Actually, I wanted to convey my thank you to you, Karen, for taking out the time and talking about this important topic. I know we have had multiple conversations, and this is something which is, as an ecosystem, I think, as Dr. Chintan was also saying in the starting, as an ecosystem at Atal Innovation Mission, which is building these incubation centers and the innovation community innovation centers, is what we are intending to bring that thought process.
Right.
So definitely this conversation will be helpful, and also maybe for future, connect with you and Ido Bro would be meaningful for us. So please, if you can also share your how people can stay connected with you, your mobile number or your email ID, both. That will be also helpful for everyone.
Sure. So, firstly, of course, LinkedIn is always there. So that's one great way. The other is my email, which is Karon.Shaiva, my name, at idobro.com. So very simple email over there. Please do write. I am very good with emails normally. I must say that. Okay. And yeah, I will definitely make it a point to respond to that. Great. There is a question thanks so much, Vinay, for putting that. So a cultural shift we want to add in our organization. Great. I think, all of us have heard this line, right? That culture eats strategy for breakfast. So obviously we know that, you can make the best SOPs in the world, you can design the best strategy, but if you can't get your people to implement it and accept those strategies, it's not going to work. And that's all a factor of culture. That's all the factor of the iceberg model, the mental models. That if you say, I keep putting structures in place, but it doesn't get accepted, then that means the mental models are not working, right? So you need to examine that, and you need to examine all the layers of the iceberg model. What are the events that are happening in your organization that is probably going wrong or going right? Both ways it works. What are the patterns and trends around those events and activities that are happening? What are the kind of structures you need to put in place around them? And most important is, what is the mental model of the people who are implementing this or who are part of that event or situation or initiative? I think when you start understanding that iceberg model, you will be able to do that culture shift and make sure that change management will happen, which can be initially incremental, but hopefully over a period of time, when you keep working at it, it will become transformative. Yeah. So thank you for asking me that question.
Thank you,
Any
ma'am.
other? Great. Thanks. I hope all of you will definitely do the homework. VUCA, the Cine framework by Dave Snowden. Look up the iceberg model. Look up the causal loop models. Learn a little bit more on the theory part so that you can use it more effectively. But I do hope that this has at least given you that sense of yes, this has a lot of potential, and that is critical for us to use systems thinking in what we do. And as Dr. Chintan said, if you use it right, I believe you can multiply your impact. Yeah. So with that, I will stop and wish you all the very, very best in whatever you're doing, and hope to hear stories in the days to come about how you have used it, applied it, and leveraged it for innovation. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.